was what I grew up with. And then in my student years, I got a job as a farm laborer, and that was the first time that I could really understand how hard these people worked and how little recognition they got for their contribution. And if you think about it, you can't make a good wine without good grapes, just like you can't make good food without good ingredients. And people were having wonderful wine, but forgetting the hard work and the effort put in by the vineyard workers, the laborers. So for the first time in my life, I was doing a bit of manual labor, and I was shocked by how hard the work was, how little we got paid, and how little recognition we got. And I think it came home to me one day in August, which is our coldest month. I was so cold in the morning that I went back to my house to put on my wetsuit. I love surfing, so I put on my nice warm wetsuit and I went back to the vineyard. And I looked at my colleagues and I felt very clever for a short period of time. And then I realized that my colleagues were so poor they couldn't afford surfing or a wetsuit. And that they had is they could take newspaper and put newspaper around their feet to just try and keep their feet warm in this cold weather. And it shocked me, and at that stage didn't have a business. We were just working in the different vineyards of different neighbors. But it made a lasting impression on me, and I promised myself I would not forget that day. So many years later, I told you we started with a cow shed and we took out the cows and we made a little bit of wine, and it wasn't so good, it wasn't so bad. And then I asked a bank manager, a different one this time, not the one for organic. By that time he had left us, a different one. And I said to him, please lend us money because we want to start a wine company. And he almost had a heart attack because he said, very rich people come into the wine business. They take a lot of money to create a brand, to build a cellar, to do it. None of you have an education in viticulture, oenology, or commerce. You know a little bit about philosophy, and most of your colleagues are illiterate. Because in apartheid, the salaries were so low that a lot of the people had to leave school early to also work in the vineyards to help their parents put some food on the table in the evenings. I mean, it's terrible. So, in any case, he had a good laugh and he said, well, you know, I don't think so. When you are young and rebellious and somebody tells you, I don't think so, and you say, well, I'm going to show you, we will do it. But my colleagues said no. They weren't young and rebellious. They must have been about 20 years older than I was at the stage. And also, you know, I grew up in an environment where my parents told me anything you set your mind to is possible, just try and it will happen. And I believe maybe with my colleagues, they grew up in a very oppressive system that, you know, kept on pushing them down. And the next day they came to me and they said, you know, thank you, it's a wonderful idea, but we're not going to do it. So to me that was shocking, because we were paid in those days, it's not so long ago, but it is long ago, but still we were paid 90 Rand a week, which is, because South Africa has a high inflation of about 6% per year, but you know, it's less than €9 for a week's work. So there was not a lot of money going around. And we, I just couldn't believe that this was the one and only dream, and now that was also shattered. And then that night I was also reading my philosophy again, and I was reading the work of an Indian philosopher, a guy called Amartya Sen, and he was from India. And Sen said, if you want to empower people, you must give them choice. Because in life, if people have choice, they have power. If you can choose what you want to do, you are empowered. So I thought, okay, well that's nice. And then the next morning, everybody together, we said, okay, well I read this thing about Sen, what do you choose? And everybody said, well, to be honest, you know, we don't really want a winery, we would like a house, just a house to live in, and education, if not for us, at least for our children. Because you must understand this, the dynamic. My parents came in the 80s to this farm. But these people have been living here for generations. And they were legally free to come and go as they liked, but structurally they were impoverished and almost enslaved, because in order to live on the farm, they had to work on the farm. And in a country where there's a 30% unemployment rate and a huge housing shortage, people aren't just free to come and go and move into different houses and get different jobs, especially if they're illiterate. So, in any case, I then thought, okay, well that makes a lot of sense. Let's not just start a new winery, let's go out and buy houses as well. Just to show you how much I did understand about money. So we found an estate agent and we bought a bunch of houses, started a new winery, and it was not a good idea. It was actually a wonderful idea, but at the time it almost bankrupted us because the wine brand was unknown. Nobody knew about Reyneke. I couldn't give the wine away for free, let alone sell it. And now we had to pay money to the bank for the new winery, and we had to pay money to the bank for the houses, and very quickly we ran out of money. And it was almost over, and then I was very lucky that this lady came to the farm, and she came for a wine tasting, and she heard the story about the cornerstone, and she also happened to work for CNN International. So she said, well, I like the wine, I like the story, I'm going to take this, and we have a big African Journalist of the Year award in Johannesburg next month, and we're going to take all of this wine and present it at the tables for the people, and we fly you up and you can tell the story about the cornerstone. So you can imagine what marketing it gave to the business. All of a sudden you're on CNN International. So that opened a lot of doors for us. And it was incredible because the next morning, I still remember I woke up and I thought life doesn't get any better than this. You know, when you live in a labourer's cottage in the old days, they were built with one brick. So not cavity walls or nice thick walls. You can hear the wind blow. It's quite cold in there. And now I'm lying in this fancy hotel in Johannesburg, and it's nice big cushions and a fluffy duvet, and I'm like, wow, okay, it's good. And then we go down for breakfast, and as we get to breakfast, they say, well, we have a surprise for you, and it's not for me. I was just there, but it was for the winning journalists and for the other sponsors. And the prize was none other than Nelson Mandela.
He comes there.
He comes there. So now you sit and you have breakfast in a hotel, and in the door walks Madiba, like we like to call him, or Nelson Mandela. And I don't know if you ever met him, but to me it was it's a very profound moment. It's incredible. It's special. He had an incredible presence when he came through the door. You could almost feel the aura of the person. And needless to say, I was a bit shell-shocked. I didn't know what to say. I mean, what does one say to Nelson Mandela? And
have a drink.
Yeah, have a drink. It was breakfast. But I needed a drink. So, sure. Anyway, so eventually it's my turn to meet the president. And I just stood there like the village idiot. I didn't know what to say. And he could see I was very uncomfortable. So he said, just tell me, what is your name and what do you do? And then I was thinking, okay, what is my name and what do I do?
So you're nervous?
No, really nervous. So then eventually I realized, okay, and I said, now my name is Johan and I'm a farmer. And the moment I said it, I regretted it. Because you must understand, in apartheid, the white people were the oppressors, the Afrikaners were the conservative whites, and the farmers were the conservative Afrikaners. So I was like the worst of the worst of the worst. And here's this amazing person that's just been left out of a small room that he spent very many years in for freedom. Any case, so he looked at me and he said, so Johan, vertel my, hoe gaan dit met ons boere? Now that's Afrikaans for, so Johan, tell me, how are our farmers doing? I mean, isn't that incredible? I couldn't believe it. So all of a sudden, this person who should hate me, or what I stand for, is genuinely concerned and interested on the worst of the worst of the worst, you know, the farmers of South Africa. Please tell me, how are our farmers doing? An incredible person. In any case, when he said that, I was like,
Smash.
I can't hear anymore. I can't think of anything to say. And I stood there for a while, and eventually his security guard came and said, okay, you must, you know, move on a bit. So other people also want to meet the president. So that was very special. But it's actually, and from there, it's been like this. Unfortunately, half the families that we bought the houses for sold the houses and took the money. And you can understand it in a way, because they had nothing. And now they can sell a house for a couple of hundred of thousands of rands. And also, I feel guilty in a way, because I thought I was doing the right thing at the time. But to own a house and to run a house, you need money and you need skills. And if you don't have those, it's almost impossible. You're almost setting people up for failure. Because now they have to pay rates and taxes and water and electricity and maintenance. And how do you do that on a farm laborer's wage? So half managed to continue and half sold the houses and opted for the money, which I thought was really sad. And they eventually quit their jobs. I think they felt embarrassed because the other half had retained their houses. And they actually went and they became what we call backyard dwellers. So they put up a shack in the backyard of somebody else's house in the township, which made me really feel bad, and still makes me feel bad to this day, because they'd gone from a house on the farm to a shack in somebody else's backyard, which is the last thing that I wanted. But the other half did well. They retained their houses. One couple has retired. The other couple actually moved to a small village about 300 kilometers from here. Yeah, I think that's life. So, you know, it's never 100% success rate. I'd say this was about a 50-50 one. But to me, something that really gives me hope, and she must cringe when she hears me tell the story again, but I have 2 young daughters now. They're not so young anymore. Isabella is now 13 and Tallulah is 9. But one of the guys who used to work in the vineyard with me way back had this beautiful young daughter with the nicest, brightest eyes, and like my daughter Tallulah. And she went, and she grabbed this opportunity with both hands. And she went through school, and she went through college, she got a tertiary degree, and it's phenomenal if you think that her dad is pretty much illiterate, not through any fault of his own, but just circumstance and the times that he grew up in. I mean, nobody chooses to be a black person born into apartheid South Africa. It's a terrible thing if it happens. But this girl now runs Reyneke office and tasting room. And that is the wonderful lady that you saw when you got.
Comes in?
Yes.